If you're a woman who wants marriage and children within marriage only, let's talk. How does it benefit you or society for you to be an indefinite exclusive girlfriend to a man who's still figuring out if you're the one? How much time has to pass, and how many times must you sleep with him before he suddenly decides, you know what? She's the one. Sidebar, because it needs to be said. What I just said is not to shame women who've had sex outside of marriage, and it most certainly is not to shame the parent who stayed, the single mom. Let's make that clear before the demons come to twist and distort this message. Was society not the one preaching men are the leaders and women are the followers? So don't come for women because some followed men into their debauchery. And please, Savior, where's women's accountability sermons for someone else? Anyway, here's the truth. You may not have been responsible for how you were conditioned in the past, but once you see clearly, you are responsible for your choices going forward. If this message goes over your head, it's not for you anyway. Now, back to our regularly scheduled program. Some men are betting that women won't hold to their convictions, that the fear of aging out of marriage and motherhood will pressure women into indefinite exclusivity without a ring, that women will tell themselves they have no choice but to wait until he's so called ready. But here's the reality. If one of your goals is marriage and children, time is not neutral. Every year invested in uncertainty is a year you can't get back. If you give indefinite exclusivity to a man as his girlfriend, you may never become his wife. And if you withhold exclusivity until engagement, you also risk never becoming a wife. That can feel like a no-win situation. But here's the difference. One path gives your values away cheaply. The other preserves them. One ties your timeline to a man who may never align with you. The other keeps you available for a man who actually shares your vision. Let's be honest. Some men do need time to mature, heal, or stabilize their lives. But maturity isn't measured by how long he keeps you waiting. And here's where it gets backward. Instead of the message being, if you're a man over 25, don't expect exclusivity until you're ready for marriage. Because if you're not ready, you need time to grow, stabilize, and prepare. We flip it. We tell women to give exclusivity anyway, to hang on as girlfriends in the hope that he'll be ready before her fertility begins to decline. That makes no sense. Shouldn't the burden be on him? If he's not ready for marriage, shouldn't he also not expect exclusivity from a woman? If exclusivity is supposed to be proof of values alignment, then what does it mean when a man demands exclusivity without commitment, without putting skin in the game, without a ring? It means he values the benefits of your loyalty, but not the responsibility that should come with it. And if his commitment isn't part of his definition of exclusivity, then you're not aligned. You're being used. Indefinite exclusivity without clarity doesn't just hurt you. It weakens the very thing society says it wants: strong marriages and strong families. Society doesn't gain when women settle into long-term uncertainty with a man. Society gains when men and women unite around shared values and timelines. Historically, men pushed monogamy to control women, and somehow women ended up being blamed for wanting it too much. Historically, men were the ones demanding, "You're mine and only mine," while keeping concubines, mistresses, and weekend so called hunting trips. Women weren't asking for exclusivity, they were surviving it. And here's the kicker: men didn't even want monogamy for themselves. They wanted both a wife and mistresses. They wanted to be legally obligated only for the children they chose to claim. So while researchers argue that men police female monogamy to guarantee paternity, that's only half the truth. If they truly cared about that, they'd have been faithful themselves. What they really cared about was not being forced to provide for children they didn't want, whether another man's or theirs. You want to know how you guarantee paternity? By not having sex with. You know what? Never mind. Anyway, what's more delusional than thinking you can do the same act with both your wife and other women and magically will it so only your wife gets pregnant? Fix it, Jesus. So, how did monogamy get rebranded as a female obsession? Men locked women down to protect their legacy while excusing their own loose behavior as natural. Over time, men flipped the script, making women the purity police. Commitment became her job, while he got to play commitment optional. And here's the modern scam. Now, If she asks for monogamy, she's delusional. Patriarchal gaslighting works like this: distort history, shift blame, then shame women for holding the very line men once demanded. So maybe monogamy was never the female thing. Maybe the real trick was making women believe it was. And let's clear this up while we're here. The Bible never said a woman's highest calling is wife and mother. That's patriarchy talking, not God. Jesus himself said marriage is not for everyone. Check it out in Matthew 19. And the Apostle Paul said singleness can actually be better because it allows for undivided devotion to God. Check that out in 1 Corinthians 7. And before y'all quote Timothy, would the Apostle Paul really contradict himself? Is the Bible seriously saying women can only be saved through having kids? Fix it, Jesus. Has salvation not always been through Christ alone? To preach otherwise is disingenuous, destructive, and quite frankly, demonic. A final word to women's hearts. I'm sorry that God's design for marriage and family, a healthy husband and children within marriage, has been distorted and stolen by a broken world. But hear me clearly. This is not a battle of men versus women. The real battle is spiritual warfare. And if you don't believe in God and the term spiritual warfare makes you cringe, consider this. Every one of us entered this world as an innocent baby. Then something happened. They say adolescence isn't hard because teenagers are crazy. It's hard because that's when you start noticing the hypocrisy in your parents and in the world around you. So just pay attention. Study history. Do you see the patterns? Humanity doing the same things over and over and over and expecting different results? Isn't that the very definition of insanity? Here's what I want you to know. If you desire marriage and a stable family, you will not find it by playing the devil's games. And even when you do marry, your marriage will still be tested because spiritual warfare doesn't stop at the wedding altar. But always remember this. You are stronger than you realize. You have the power to hold to your convictions even when it hurts. The grief that comes from not having the outcome you long for, at least not yet, is real. Feel it, process it, but don't live there. Longing for marriage is healthy, but your worth isn't dependent on it. You were created to be loved, cared for, and honored. If that's not on the table right now, then protect your peace. Guard your spirit, and above all, don't play the devil's games. With love, Coach Mel.